No, you're not seeing things, ladies and gentlemen. We are here with one of the premier bands in a state that, well, we know quite a bit about. And of course, the great state of Michigan, and our old friend, the man beast, the war machine, Rhino, of course, is from there. And so many of our wrestling stars here on Sportswire Radio have graced Michigan and called it home. And we've got a band here that's got a huge festival to talk about. We've got new music where the response for their most recent single has been through the roof. We're going to talk about what the band has done, what the band is upcoming, and I can assure you there will be no fallacy tonight. There won't be any eulogy on this band. I can promise you there won't be any places to lie here because we're going to get straight to the truth here in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the only platform where all music and wrestling matters here, Sportswire Radio. Now, I know that our guest has certainly done some of these throughout the past few years, and his band has certainly shared the stage with some definite bands that I'm sure we'll get into. Bring Me the Horizon. How about this band, Lamb of God, and a producer that's produced some of the very best. But I do things here a little differently. I know you've done different shows in different places, but I'm going to give you an introduction. I'm not going to quite take Gabby's job, but I'm going to certainly, because my chat's waiting for this. You're like, what the heck have I gotten into? But ladies and gentlemen, in the famous words of Def Leppard frontman Joe Elliott, let's get rocked, baby, and introduce our guest here on Sportswire Radio, the number one global radio station where all music and wrestling matters. So with that, without further ado, here on the Sports Report, number one global sports show, a man that is a guitarist from one of the premier bands from the great state of Michigan, a band that is now on Golden Robot Records to talk about their brand new singles, The Source and Place You Lie. His name is simply put the guitarist from Black Note, Graffiti, my friend, how are we doing?
I'm doing a lot better now with that introduction.
And I gave you the shorter one because sometimes I do these and it turns into like almost like when Black Sabbath just came out last week and played their final show. Everybody goes, oh, the War Pigs. I do the whole, I sometimes I do these 8 minutes long, but I realize you're a very important person. You've got a lot of stuff to talk about. And I know your management would kill me if I did another 4 minutes of that intro. So I gave you the short version because I'll make you laugh. I had on LA Guns frontman Phil Lewis a couple weeks ago here. And he kind of looked at me like, almost like, what am I doing? I had obviously Rhino, who was famously WWE legend, Hall of Famer, and was like, I'm ready to run through a wall. And then I had Doug Pinnick of King's X, who was giving me advice, and I'll turn my voice into James Hetfield of Metallica. So I wanted to not give you too long of the long-winded intro, but it's an absolute honor to have you here. I'm very excited to talk with you about the new music. I have a show coming up here, so let's get into it here because Chris Keller, for those that are listening and watching here on Sportswire Radio, the only platform where all music and wrestling matters. Here, talk to me about what we can expect coming up, where you guys are going to be playing once again the end of this month at the Miles of Music Festival.
It's in Appleton, Wisconsin.
And I have friends in Appleton, believe it or not. I have wrestling buddies of mine who
that's cool.
Yeah, my buddy that's Sean cool. Jovi. I'll make sure he hears this one.
Yeah. Please send him out to meet us. And the greatest thing about this festival, for one thing, it's free. It's
Wow.
free
Okay.
to the public. It's absolutely amazing. And the name of the festival says it all. It is a mile. It's a mile of free music.
Wow. That's
So
really cool. That's really
yeah,
cool.
and there's like 300 artists, and it's over 5 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's
Okay.
4 days,
Hmm.
and it's just an amazing festival these guys put on, and it's really artist centered. So
Okay.
and when I say that, I mean they take great care of all the artists, and it was featured in the Rolling Stone last year as one of the new top festivals, and just the team over there, Ian, the talent buyer over for Mile
Sure.
Music, he's a great guy. He's such a cool guy, and he really loves music, and you can tell. And I think this is our third time playing this
Yeah, because I know you
festival.
guys have played there a couple times. I was going to follow up
Yeah,
with
it's
that.
really a cool. It's really an amazing an event, but and there's all genres there. There's everything from hard rock to country to folk music. So it's got everything anybody would want, and it's basic kind of in the middle of nowhere. There's just basically bars and churches there, but they
Yeah, I know Appleton. I know a little bit because again, my buddy Sean Jovi, sort of not related to John Bon Jovi, but Appleton is a place I'm very familiar with on my platform over the years. And yeah, I know Appleton doesn't quite have much to do, but thankfully, you guys are going to change that here. And it's exciting. I think when a band like yours plays with a lot of these different bands because this came up. I had on Zebra's Randy Jackson, not the American Idol one, and they were playing a festival. This was back in February, and they were actually, it was funny, Zebra, hard rock band in the vein of Led Zeppelin, playing a festival with In Vogue. And I always love when these festivals get put together because it's almost like a hodgepodge of bands. And I think that's kind of exciting, right? As a musician, to be with different artists and different genres that maybe it allows you to maybe be exposed to and maybe network a little bit.
absolutely, I totally agree with that. 20 years ago, it would be unheard of to have these multi-genre festivals, but we put on multi-genre shows here in Michigan, and
Yeah.
we love it because, I mean, face it, today everyone listens to all genres of music. They really
Yeah.
do. I mean, obviously, you have your druthers on what music you prefer and like,
Right.
but in general, now people listen to everything. They listen to hip hop, they listen to metal,
Yeah.
whatever's good. So
Yeah, it's a different
you're right.
world. 20, 30, 40 years ago, you were kind of pigeonholed. You were put into a box. Now,
Exactly.
there's so many elements of music, even within a band. I mean, you guys, as an example, I hear a lot of different things. I hear Deftones, I hear Rage Against the Machine, but then I hear a little bit of like jazz. I hear almost a little bit of fusion, and I hear Corn, obviously, as well, a little bit. And I hear different things, and I think that that's what's good. And I think that that's exciting for you guys to go out there. I know you've played a lot of festivals of late. What is it about for you guys playing these festivals in these different places? What has that been, and why you guys play so many of them?
Well, I would say that it's so competitive. The music industry is so
Oh,
competitive.
I'm aware. Trust me, I've had so many bands on recently, and it's like it's just
There's so,
very good to talk.
yeah. When I first started this when I was a young teenager, and I was trying to get in all these rock and roll clubs in the Midwest, and this guy told me, "Listen, there's 1 million bands and there's 100,000 clubs. That's the deal."
Yeah, that's the
So I
ratio.
mean, that's really the case. So, I mean, to really take it serious and you know be professional and be good, rehearse and show up on time and be courteous and all that stuff. I know it's like anti-punk sounding, but all
No,
that
we talk
stuff.
about that in wrestling. No, listen, I've had WWE wrestlers on here, and I am kind of this platform where it's a hodgepodge of all these different types of wrestlers. And the one common thing is it doesn't matter whether it's in music, wrestling, that you gotta show some respect. Even if it's not the rock thing, it's not the wrestling, the attitude thing, it goes a long way in life.
It does, and that has really helped us get into a lot of these festivals. And things we'll send merchandise ahead of time to promoters and things like that. And just to leak a couple secrets, if anybody's listening to this that's in a band, we'll send out merch, we'll send out albums, we'll send out hats, we'll send out stuff
Yeah.
like that. And these guys, anywhere from the volunteers that are working at these festivals or whatever, they get the merch and it shows up and we're submitting to these things. And they go, wow, I mean, look at this. These guys sent me this hat, this shirt. This is awesome. We got to get these guys here. And so it's just small things like that it has gone a long way for us. And so we've got to play a lot of festivals in front of a lot of people, and it's been a blast. It's a great reason to travel and see new places and meet new people that are in the like-minded state that also love music.
Absolutely.
So it's been
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about that. And we're here with Black Note Graffiti guitarist Chris Keller. The band is also touring out there for their LP, which has been out just about a little less than a year now. It is called Resist the Divide. You can get it on Golden Robot Records. You can listen to some of the music on YouTube, Spotify, other places. We'll put some links up there here in a few minutes for it. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. You have voice figuratively and literally with all music in wrestling matters. Are there any bands that you guys want to go out and be on a festival with? Or I mean, I know you've been on, Saving Abel, Bring Me the Horizon, I know Lamb of God. I mean, there's some bands obviously you've shared some stages with, but are there bands out there that you guys collectively would like to maybe share a stage with and such?
Well, I think every member in this band would probably have a different point of view on that. But for me right now, I'd have to admit that I'm really liking the new Turnstile record,
Yeah.
and they got a couple really good hits that they just dropped an album, and some of their live stuff is pretty cool. So, for me, that would be great to play some shows with them. But whatever. Who knows?
Yeah. No, listen, it's you just you never know out there. And do you see the band? I know we have this festival here coming up, and I had shared it on the band's Instagram page. I'll come back to that. But do you envision maybe some dates, whether it's club dates back home or other festivals before the summer? Because it's crazy now. Like we're almost like halfway through summer. I mean, here in New York, it's like so hot, and I say to myself, it's July 16th, but we're kind of like rolling through the summer here. But is there any potential dates you guys may have lined up where people can see you guys here coming out throughout either the rest of the summer or into the fall?
We do have some fall dates. We can't announce them to the end of the month, but
Okay.
if you check out our website, that stuff's going to be announced at the
Okay.
at the end of July. So we do have more stuff coming up in the Midwest, and so that'll all be coming out soon.
Absolutely. And also, I want to put up the Instagram page of the band. So if you want to check out some of the stuff, you can do that here. There's a link tree with a bunch of different links and some different stuff. And they were in the Detroit News last month, and they've played some other places. Burnfest was not too long ago. The band played that. You can get some merchandise stuff, some CDs, whatever else. Yes, CDs are still such a thing. And obviously, Resist the Divide. And I want to talk about the LP because I listened to some of your music, and what really struck me about this one is it's a little bit of a different. I think it takes a slightly different turn, and I'm wondering for your thoughts. What did Josh Schroeder add to Resist the Divide here, and kind of helping put this record together, which has some really strong cuts, almost slightly different than what I think you guys have done here. So talk to me about the response to the album so far, what your producer, Josh Schroeder, brought to the table.
I think that this is one of the best records I've been a part of, no question, in my life. And I think the main reason, not only because we finally got Gabby joined the band a few years ago, and so everything kind of came together with the members in the band, and then writing the album, and then bringing the album to Josh Schroeder. And the thing that Josh really did differently was we did the pre-production in the studio was much different than other recordings, where all other recordings I've been on, you record your parts and then the producer mixes everything in the end.
Yeah,
It's
I've
pretty
heard of it.
standard. Well, this record, we were pretty much mixing it along the way. So we
Okay.
were dialing in each instrument and each member's tone, and from anything, bass, guitar, drums, vocals, everything, as we go.
Hmm.
So by the end of the record, it was 90% finished. And that's the way Josh does it. And I've never seen anybody do it like that. But it worked really well because we dialed everything in what each member's, you know, what they wanted with this guitar tone in this part, this bass tone in this part, this vocal style in this part, and all that stuff was dialed in as we recorded the record. So when we got to the end, it was pretty much done, which was a great. I mean, I've been doing this for years. I've never done a record like this. So that to me was amazing. I mean, that was like, and it was hard. It wasn't easy because each one of the tones we spent 2 days on finding the bass guitar tone, 2 full days. Finally, when we got the tone that we loved, we started recording the songs for the bass.
Sure.
But in the end, the tones were all recorded the way we wanted them by the
Right.
time the records were recorded over a month period. So it was really a different way of recording a record. Where, for me in the past, recording a record, you do your tracks through,
You
guitar.
send him in, and sometimes the thing now is, I mean, I just had LA Guns frontman Phil Lewis on here, and they have a new album also out, and basically their guitar player Tracy Guns basically records it on his phone. I mean, it's such a different world. Before, obviously years ago, everybody goes into a studio, you hole up in there, and you live there, and you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the record label pays for it. But now, you could go out there and you guys being the musicians that you are can kind of with by ear figure out what you want to do, how you want to implement that, and it's a totally different process. And I think one of the things that I gather, Chris, from what you're telling I think us here right now, is that also you guys have had a few records under your belt. So I think that allows you as musicians to be able to improve the process or be able to do things in a way that's maybe more constructive than when the band was starting out a decade ago.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it all came to head at that with this producer. Because before it was like, when you don't really, we did records before, but we didn't have the experience that we had on before we got to record this record. So you're right, you're totally spot on that. By the time we got to this, we were experienced enough to not get frustrated when things got hard to get exactly the sound that you want. Because right when you're almost at the point is where a lot of people give up and don't keep going and just say, well, fuck it, just record it like that. Or, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, we're here. It's right now. We're gonna get this perfect, and that's what we did on this record.
Yeah, and I think it shows because I think sonically the band is definitely evolving. I think Undertones, Eulogy, certainly the two singles have been gotten a strong response, and I think it also goes because again I've had a lot of bands on recently, and producers really can make that difference. I mean, I had the band Kicks on, and we were talking about Brian Damage Foresight. They had Bo Hill for one album, and they went to Tom Werman, and it was a big difference sonically. And that they wound up years later going and fixing an album. And Nick Raskolowitz is somebody that everybody uses. Hailstorm, Rush even used them, and there's a certain thing, an ear. Almost the producer becomes that extra member of the band. And how do you feel about the record now that it's been out a while? How do you feel the response has been from the public so far?
I feel good about it. I mean, it's organic. Everything was recorded live. There's nothing fake on the record at all. We're not using auto tune or anything on anything. All the
Yeah, I wasn't
drums
going
are.
to ask you, considering Gabby's vocals. I wasn't. It wasn't on my itinerary. I've had enough big bands on at this point that we're not going to go there.
No, yeah. I mean, those guys are pitch perfect on all that stuff. We didn't use any auto tune. All the drums are real. No, no, we're not flying any fake drums or anything like that. So yeah, so just for that point, just that alone, that means a lot to me when you can actually do an entire record and you created every sound on the record naturally and nothing is fake. That's pretty
No.
cool.
No,
it sounds,
and I think that the response shows because obviously the source place you lie. I mean, they've gotten a major response. The videos on YouTube, Spotify have gotten a lot of views, a lot of engagement. They've certainly increased the band's profile. And I mean, I hate asking this question to musicians because I've done this enough now, and I've had so many wrestlers on, so I know how it goes here. People get offended, but I got to ask you: is there a track or two on Resist the Divide that stands out? Okay, that was my favorite. I mean, is there something that you really, maybe if it's not even your favorite, but when you guys were recording the record with Josh, was there one or two songs that were like, of it, you know what, that clicked?
I would say it's changed, over
Yeah.
the, during the recording process, I would have a different answer. But for now, after, almost a year later, I really do like the source. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, it's a groove. It's cool. And you don't have to think too hard about it. And that isn't that what really music's about? I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah, you gotta
at the
feel.
end of the day, nobody wants to think too hard about it. I mean, yeah, I mean the ACDC stuff and all that stuff.
Yeah, the
It's
three
so great.
chords and the same thing. You know,
Right.
I'll make you laugh. My dad was a drummer, and one of the things he used to always bemoan, and I obviously don't have the musical instrument ability, but he used to always talk about the Rolling Stones drummer Charlie Watts, and he'd just sit there and go like this. And as a musician, you obviously don't. You want to, yeah, just like yeah, exactly. So you know what I'm talking about, and I think that obviously you guys have some type of groove, and I really think there's a lot of incorporations in some of the songs, whether it's some jazz, whether it's some fusion, whether I certainly hear some rock and metal. And I'm always curious because again, I've had bands on that have just put out new music recently, and do you subconsciously go into the studio, especially with a record like this where it is slightly different than some of your earlier work? Do you feel like, hey, I just want to go out there? Like, for example, I had LA Guns, Phil Lewis, and we were talking about how their most recent record, it's almost like a detour for the band. There's a little bit more blues influence. There's almost an acoustic feel, but I mean, you guys don't deviate to that level. But do you feel like when you're in the studio that you guys can just play whatever, more or less?
We did some of that, like Eulogy, we wrote in the
Yeah.
studio with Josh, but most of the record was written before. But there was a couple tracks on this record that we wrote in the studio. But going back to talking about playing in festivals and things, what's cool about this band is we're a hard rock band, but we also do some stuff with harmonies
Yep.
and stuff like that. So it's been a really cool tool to get us into festivals like Mile of Music
Yep.
because we're hard rock, but we also can get out of that
Navigate a
into,
little bit. Yeah.
I wouldn't say singer songwriter because I'm definitely not that, but some softer stuff that
Yeah.
builds into that. So it's a strange genre that we're in. Really, it's kind of a two. We're meddling in two different things.
Well, I
Which
mean,
has
I
been
think
good.
that's, but I think as a musician, as we're here with Chris Keller, of course, he's the guitarist of the band Black Note Graffiti. They're going to be playing at the Miles of Music Festival toward the end of the month here in Appleton, Wisconsin. Shout out to my good friend Sean Jovi. And you can go to the band's Instagram. You can check them out on Facebook, YouTube, a bunch of other stuff there, and buy some merchandise while you're at it. My name is the Reverend Tom Rice. But I think that's what's a good thing for a band because so many bands don't want to be labeled or pigeonholed. And I think that with your music, there's definitely different elements that can maybe have you guys bob and weave to different things. I had Doug Pinnick of King's X, and they're like the biggest example of a band that you could never label. You could never almost typecast it. Maybe it didn't work for the record sales, but they just played with Tool. It's a band, it's an older heritage band, but they got on a festival with Tool. And I have to give you guys a shout out, by the way. You're going to laugh at this because you guys have a song called Sappy. And one of my friends is named Steven Saperstein, and we call him Sappy, by the way.
Nice,
Sappy. So
nice.
I have to particularly say that one of my favorite songs outside of the new, of course, we love the new record here on Sportswire, is Sappy, because for whatever reason, and I told my buddy Steven Saperstein that we have a band coming on, and they wrote a song about you, and I don't think he's going to come out to anywhere with it, but I will say that Sappy is one of my personal favorites for a
Oh,
personal
that's
reason.
cool. That's a great track. That is a
Yeah.
really trippy song. Writing that was cool. We wrote that. We finished that in Pearl sound studios in Michigan with Chuck Alkazian. Chuck's done some pretty big records too.
Yeah.
He's worked with Chris Cornell to a bunch of different people, but yeah, Filter recorded
Yeah.
there. And but yeah, that's cool that you
Well, you're
listen to that
label
song. I
mates with, by
appreciate
the
that.
way, now. Filter and you were label mates. I mean, who would have guessed
Yeah,
that?
that's pretty cool.
That's kind of interesting. I mean, you're a band that, is in that Filter, Helmet, Deftones kind of lane. I could definitely see some of that. Now you're on the same label as that. Maybe we could take a picture and put you guys like on the bill with them, because I just saw they were out there touring this past spring, and maybe we can like get our management here to maybe make the connection. I don't know. Just saying.
That would be great. Yeah, I think Filter. I think they're with Alice in Chains. I don't know. They're doing a
Yeah.
tour with somebody right now.
Yeah, I saw it. I think maybe it was a Creed. I think maybe it's Creed they're on the bill. It's either Creed
Okay.
or Shinedown, one of them. And I was like, okay, I've got to bring that up somehow. Work that in, because of Golden Robot Records, obviously, Kristen Torres, I want to give a big shout out to. I got something for the band. I know I got a few more questions for you. I know you're a busy guy, but I do things a little differently. I know you guys have done some podcasting, but I have something a little different. I want to present my screen because I hope that you'll take this, and we'll give it to the management of the band here, because I have put the band here into the Sportzwire Radio Hall of Fame. So congratulations. And yes, it's a real thing. And I have LA Guns in the Hall of Fame. I have King's X. I have a few other, Rhino and Savio Vega, WWE. So, it's a thing. And, congratulations. I know you weren't expecting this, but I do things differently.
That's awesome, dude. Thank you so much. That's really killer.
Yeah, definitely. You guys will get the physical copy here. And, I was curious also because obviously, Gabby brings something to the table. She's been fronting the band now for a while. And what does she bring to the band that I think has helped the band expand in what it's done here the last few years?
She's, I know her family. And when I met her mom, she said, Gabby came out of the womb singing.
So, yeah, I know she had like a church background, right? She was singing in churches and stuff like that. And she was definitely out there.
Yeah, so she's just a talent, and it makes everybody in the band better. It really does, and it definitely keeps the boys on cue, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Like, it changed things bringing her in the band for the good.
Absolutely. Listen, my mom sings actually, so I understand the whole thing.
You know what I mean?
I know it. I wouldn't be born if it wasn't the case. My dad, he married my mom. Well, he didn't. He waited, but not waited, but he waited obviously after he asked her out. But I mean, I was born that way, so I mean, I understand completely. I lived that my entire life. I didn't really get the musical gene, but yeah, there's definitely something that she adds to the table. Definitely an aggressiveness, and she adds the melodies. I think that's one of the things I've noticed, whether it's the last couple of EPs and then certainly, part 1 and 2 of volume 3, but even going into Resist the Divide, I really think what Gabby's brought to the table is, like you said, that melodies, that harmony that I think has helped the band expand a bit of its horizon. That's the kind of what I think when I see what Gabby's brought to the table as the lead singer here.
Yeah, we're this last record we recorded it in drop C, open tune, and so having a female singer on like a low tuning songs, it's pretty cool. It's so dynamic, and then with Ricardo doing harmonies too. Those guys writing a lot of the stuff, and Kurt, my brother, is the drummer. And
I was going to ask you about that. What's that like playing with your brother in the band? Obviously, we know famously there are certainly brother combos in bands. Oasis, certainly Van Halen, and there's a lot of that in the world. But what's that like playing with your brother?
It's great. I mean, I feel lucky. I really do. And growing up playing music for years, and obviously it's been, when we were younger, it was tougher. We had, went through a lot, but
sure,
it's a special thing now. I mean, who gets to play music with a family member? I mean, you know what I mean?
I do. I mean, cool. I lived it in my house as a kid. Like I said, my dad played the drums. My mother sang. My brother does play the drums. He's back out playing with a band from years ago. So yeah, awesome. I mean, I get the whole thing. It certainly adds something to it. And again, you think about Oasis, you think about Van Halen, certainly, and other bands out there that have had brothers. So it definitely adds something to the table. And I wanted to ask you this question because I haven't heard anybody ask you guys this question. What are your goals here coming up, like for the rest of the year? Anything in general with the band? What are the goals coming up for Black Note Graffiti?
Well, hopefully we'll get to write some more music and potentially do another record. Who knows? To do some bigger festivals would be great. Play with some other bands that we haven't played with would be amazing.
Yeah.
So, meeting people like you, doing shows like this, doing podcasts like this, spreading the word. Who knows what'll happen?
I'm very appreciative you're here before we get to other things because I'm usually the wrestling guy, but I've done some of these music ones and people seem to like them. I mean, Phil Lewis actually he posted on Facebook, I was good. Mark Kendall of Great White was like, yeah, that was a good one. And so yeah, I mean, that seems to be a thing, and I'm tipping my toes in the water. But you talked about new music. You guys have this record out for a year, and sometimes bands. It's funny because bands sometimes don't want to put out new music because they're worried about how many people are going to want to at the show hear certain songs, or the cost and benefit analysis and going into the studio. And I mean, but you feel that sooner rather than later you do want to go back into the studio and follow this up?
Yeah, I love studio recording. That's my favorite thing is recording music, just because it's at the end of the day you have a tangible intellectual property item
Yeah,
for me, that can sustain and be around.
absolutely.
And in some people like to play live. I love playing live too, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, going out there and the one of the big things in rock right now is these bands play these fly-in gigs, and they go out and play 2-3 shows maybe over a period, and they come back for 2 weeks, or you're going on a tour bus, and it's there's a lot. Yeah, playing out is hard. I kind of agree with the intellectual property thing because I think that that music is permanent. You can go out there and I mean, listen, we're talking about Hendrix still putting music out, and he's been dead 50 plus years.
That's
So I mean,
crazy. That's
Nirvana,
crazy.
Nirvana has come out with music from time to time. I mean, so I kind of see some of that there. And also, if you're here on Instagram, do me a favor, please go out there, hit the follow button for Black Note Graffiti. Check them out. They've obviously got here coming up. It's at the end of the month again, Appleton, Wisconsin. I'm going to certainly make sure Sean Jovi knows about this. And the Mile of Music Festival. And the band has played there a few times. You'll definitely want to check that out. And they have new music out, Resist the Divide. You can check it out. Spotify, go to Golden Robot Records. Also YouTube, check it out. Also SoundCloud if you want to see some of the earlier works as well. Like I said, some of my favorite. Sappy's probably my favorite song for different reasons, but I like Inch by Inch as well. Nights is another good one from the second part of the Volume 3 LP. So a lot of great music. Check out all of it. We're definitely not alone here because Mr. Chris Keller is here, of course, from the band Black Note Graffiti for a few more minutes, and we are very honored to have them here. And also as a reminder, they are in the Sportzwire Radio Hall of Fame. So not quite the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but maybe they'll get there soon. But we have the Sportzwire Radio Hall of Fame. Chris, I know you're a busy man and you have a lot going on, but I always feel like I have obligatorily have to ask someone like you who's had success and played these festivals. But do you have any advice for like any up and coming musician? Because again, I get so many wrestlers that come on here, with the very lowest levels, or some of them haven't wrestled in a ring, and different things like that. And I was just wondering, because again, I've asked some of the big bands as well, like you guys, like, is there any advice for anybody that's up and coming, whether it's an artist, athlete, whatever? Any advice you have?
I would say don't be afraid to contact people that you look up to. And we approached Josh Schroeder, and his manager said, no way, he's not going to work with you. He doesn't want to work with you. It's not going to happen. So I reached out to him directly and told him the story, and he called me back and said, let's do it. So
Wow.
never underestimate people, because people want to help. They feel good about that.
Yeah.
So if there's somebody that you know or somebody that you look up to, contact them. They want to help people that are not at that level. It's going to make them feel good, and they're not going to be at that level forever, and they want to bring people up with them. So it's so important. Don't underestimate yourself. That's the number one thing. You can do it, but you have to believe in yourself, and don't be afraid to reach out to those people. It's worth a shot.
Yeah.
Even if it's several people that you look up to, and whatever, wrestling, music, whatever.
Yeah.
that for me has worked out really well.
No, I agree with that. It reminds me when I was a kid, you'll chuckle. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and one of the things I used to do, my dad would tell me this. Well, maybe you should. I remember there was a few years I would sit one day and I would write to like all the NBA teams. I loved basketball, and I would write. And I was lucky. Two teams wasn't my home team, the Knicks at the time. It was the Charlotte Hornets and the Atlanta Hawks. They wrote me back, gave me a letter. I got a schedule. I still have it to this day. So you just never know who you connect with. And I think that's a great advice. And, Josh obviously knows what he's doing because the record's been very successful. And I wanted to ask you before I get to closing thoughts. You guys were in Detroit News recently, obviously your hometown paper. And what was that experience like being interviewed by the Detroit News last month?
Oh, that was great. I mean, to be in the biggest paper in Michigan, I mean,
I
was
know the Detroit News and I'm in New York City. I've heard of it. So, I mean,
yeah.
that's why I
So
asked.
that was really cool, and it was right before a show we did in Ann Arbor. We host a festival called Burn Fest, which
Yep.
is a mixed genre. We do
You guys
hip
did that
hop,
last month,
folk.
obviously.
Yeah. We do hip hop, folk, rock, heavy
Love
metal,
it.
everything at this festival.
Love it.
And we start it early and build it up and get heavier and heavier and heavier. We do that every year, and so they picked that up and to help us promote that. So that was really awesome.
That's a great thing. No, definitely. It's always an honor to be in a paper like this and to show what you guys bring to the table. And I'm very excited about what the future is for the band. And again, if you want to follow Chris, he's on Instagram as well. And also here, blacknotegraffiti.com. Go to their Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. New album is out now, Resist the Divide. It's out on all platforms. Place You Lie. That video on YouTube is at 25,000 views, nearly. Spotify, it's got thousands, it was like 9,000 views in a week. And, check out everything that Mr. Keller has to offer here. You can see him in, different things and such. And we're very excited about the future of the band here. And, before I get to closing thoughts, is there anything else that you want to plug or talk about here that we haven't got a chance to catch up on here tonight?
Just a couple things I would say that we do have vinyl available. We have all our records available on vinyl. I love vinyl. If you're a
Yeah,
vinyl,
vinyl. I had this conversation. I think with Mark Farner of Grand Funk Railroad. Vinyl is like it's a thing. It's people. How many bands sell like vinyl, and that's kind of kept the physical music alive. Kind of a crazy system,
it's crazy, and a lot of people they don't even listen to the vinyl. They just
No,
want to
they want
collect
to
it.
collect it. I was in Union Square here in Manhattan about 3 weeks ago, and I couldn't believe my eyes at just how many people were going through vinyl. It was like that was the first time on like in 20 years I've been walking around Union Square that I had seen that, and I couldn't believe at how many people were looking through vinyl.
Yeah, so that's cool. We have all of our records on vinyl on our website. You can get it there, and you know, and of course, as you mentioned, we have the festival that we're playing coming up August 1st and 2nd in Appleton, Wisconsin, Mile of Music, and it's free. So if you could make it, you won't be disappointed. It's literally a mile of music. You can go through, pick out the bands you want to see, walk down the street all day for 4 days, and check it out, and it's awesome. And the last thing I want to say is I really appreciate you having me on. You have
Absolutely.
great energy. I
Thank you.
love the show. Excellent. So thank you so much.
Thank you
It means
for
a lot.
that. Yeah, no, it means a lot to have a band like you come on here and definitely check the band out. You can see some of the stuff there. That's the vinyl and Instagram. Check it all out. Instagram, Facebook, Golden Robot Records. You can check some of that stuff out there as well. And YouTube, please support the band, listen to some of the music, and buy a shirt. That's the best way you can support an artist is to buy merchandise. We talk about this all the time in the wrestling world. All our guys come on here, the shirt. So definitely Linktree has the Instagram of Black Note Graffiti, and they'll be up here coming up July 31st to the 3rd in August, Appleton, Wisconsin. Yes, that's for you, Sean Jovi, and that's the Miles of Music Festival and almost Woodstock 2.0. And my friend, I'm going to give you the floor. Any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? I give you the floor.
Again, just thanks for having us on, and thanks for the certificate of appreciation. This is awesome. So
I'm glad. Yeah, some of the bands looked at it and it was like, Doug Pinnick thought it was great. Phil Lewis, I think, it was looked at me with like two heads. So I'm glad you liked it. But
It's great.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's great. I
it's
really appreciate it.
well, we appreciate you coming on here. Definitely, don't be a stranger. Definitely come back on when there's some more stuff to talk about in the future. And I want to thank Kristen for the opportunity. That is Chris Keller, of course. He is the guitarist from the band Black Note Graffiti. Their album Resist the Divide is out now. You can check it out via a number of platforms such as YouTube, Spotify. It's also through the website Golden Robot Records, the record label that they're a part of. Also, you can check out the video Place You Lie. That's also on the band's YouTube page. They have 44,000 plus subscribers. You will hit the sub button for them here as well. Also, they are going to be playing the Miles of Music Festival here at the end of the month. So please check out all that information. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice figuratively and literally where all music and wrestling matters. If you're here on Sportswire Radio, hit the sub button for us. And until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the number one global radio station. This is Sportswire Radio, where all music and wrestling matters. Thank you so much. Go follow Black Note Graffiti, and we'll see you soon.